Kia ora and welcome back to your information literacy report writing tutorials. And so today I'm going to talk about how to put your paragraphs together. I've got quite a lengthy example of a paragraph, and so make sure that you pause the slides if you're unsure or you want to just really slowly follow along what's going on the screen. Right, so let's make a start. First of all, when you are looking at writing your body paragraphs, just make sure that you follow the structure and that you also use the sentence starters. You should have access to this planning sheet or these sentence starters for each one of your paragraphs, and so you can see that each one of the paragraphs is made up of a topic sentence, a bit of evidence on the first source, a bit of evidence on the second source, and then a discussion and some conclusions that you can draw based on the evidence that you've presented up here, and you can then put that in relation to the hypothesis that you have started with. So let's have a look at an example. So you want to start with a topic sentence, and you can turn your question into a statement. So you can see that up here I've got my second focus question, and so I can use that actually as a subheading that will divide my report, so I can sort of have that in bold, and that can help structure my report. When I'm trying to start writing my paragraph, I might turn this question up here into a statement. Then I'm going to add some evidence from my first source, some evidence from the second, and then I'm going to discuss that. So, for those fortunate not to have first-hand experiences with domestic violence, our views are strongly influenced by how it is reported in the media. So I've just reworded my question and talking about the media's reporting of domestic violence, and so this is one way in which I can sort of give my reader an indication of where I'm going with this. Now my next step is to lead into the next bit of evidence. Okay, so the way the incident is worded, how the different parties are labelled, and the glossing over of the wider implications all seem to be supporting some dangerous stereotypes and ideas in the community about this serious issue, right? So I'm sort of paraphrasing what I've been researching, and then I'm putting in this bit of evidence here, and so I can say that Jason Katz, an anti-sexism educator, is determined in his TED Talk that domestic violence should not be framed using the words women's issues, because he says, and then I'm starting my quote here, men as a dominant group in domestic violence are allowed to become invisible when it comes to these issues. The language in new reporting shifted from John beat Mary to Mary was beaten. And so you can see how the name of the male has disappeared there in the reporting. And that's what I'm basically looking at here. So I'm providing some specific evidence for that. Then I'm starting to lead into my next bit of evidence. By doing this, the focus is moved from John and his vile actions to just Mary as the victim. The guidelines for journalists published by the Are You OK Task Force in New Zealand speak of the same issue. They say that despite family violence being, and now I'm starting to quote again or to lead into my specific example of this source, the second source that I'm introducing. So despite family violence being one of New Zealand's most significant social issues, that the severity of it is minimised in our journalism. Less than 30% of articles mentioned previous violent attacks committed by the perpetrator. Horrifyingly, nearly 50% include some kind of excuse for the abuser, and others offer mitigating circumstances like stress as a reason. And so here I've got a short quote, so you can see that this quote ends here, but then I've done a whole lot of paraphrasing of the other bits of information that I found in my source, and so that's all counted as evidence for my second source. And now I can just lead into a bit of discussion. So again, I'm making a transition here. It is clear from these sources, referring to both sources, that the media has a significant impact on our understanding of the issue. Okay, so that's linking to my focus question, but also to my hypothesis. The language that they use and the choices that they make around how these stories are presented introduce a certain bias and in many cases diminish the severity of the crime. And now I can carry on and discuss that. If this coverage informs our attitudes, then we are likely to adopt some of the gender stereotypes which are, albeit at times unconsciously, part of the reporting on domestic violence. So you can see now I'm starting to draw conclusions, and so that's the purpley coloured bit here. If men are taken out of the main narrative and excuses are published alongside the facts, then a culture of victim blaming is perpetuated. This allows the issue to be overlooked, which is something that New Zealand cannot afford to do. If we want to start seriously tackling the issue, we need to at least start by presenting as close to the unmediated truth as we can get. Okay, so you can see that in the purpley bit I'm sort of drawing conclusions and I'm making some statements around the kind of ideas or the understanding I have come to after reading all of my sources, and so after pulling all of that together. Now this is a good enough paragraph, so if you look at that like that, we can just pull it together, and so this is now the paragraph for my second focus question. So ideally you would do that for your for all of your 3 focus questions. You would have a discussion like that. You want to have a bit of a lead-in sentence that kind of rephrases the question that you're trying to answer. Then you might have a couple of transition bits from one section into the next from the off the paragraph. And so you want to have some specific evidence of one source and then some specific evidence of a second source. And then this bit here is quite important, drawing your own conclusions and coming to a new understanding. All right, make sure that you go back to the exemplar frequently and that you have a chat with your teacher as well, because your teacher will be able to help you with in the context of the topic that you have chosen. And so do just ask. We're more than happy to help. All right, take care and happy writing. Bye.